everybody, it's John, your Indian Cine-MANIAC with another 10-ish-minute review. I'm just cranking these suckers out, huh? I'm on a good, ever since I turned 60, I'm just blowing these out the doors. Okay, so listen, I'm excited about this one because I watched it last night and I'm doing the review the next day, and the film is 12th Fail, which a lot of you have said I should watch, and it's based on a book. So I watched it last night. And well, I'll tell you what I think about it in a minute. Okay, it came out in 2023, so relatively new. It was written and directed by Vinod Chopra, who wrote one of my favorite Indian films, Three Idiots. So I was curious to see what he was going to do with this. It stars Vikrant Massey, Medha Shankar, Joshi, Anantvijay, and Anshuman Pushkar. Now, I don't think I've seen any of these actors in any other films. So they were new to me. And the film was inspired by true events. So it says inspired. It's not based on these events. I also watched, based on a recommendation, I watched a YouTube interview with the director to get a little more insight about the film. So I'm gonna talk about that too. Um, so okay, let's talk about the story. It's based on the book, and I think it's a fantastic script. The dialogue, the story, very realistic, not over the top like a lot of Hindi movies I've seen. It sounds like dialogue. It sounds like stuff that people would actually say to each other. So I love the script, and it's really about perseverance. It's about not giving up your dreams. But the director said it's about his whole thing wasn't about uh what's how I'm not sure how I want to say this. Like achieving success through adversity, which is really what the movie's about, but that's not what it's about to the director. What he said was it's about remaining honest without having to sell your soul. And that's what this movie is about. And it's about a guy who is living in poverty in, I think, Kashmir, um, or it's a village, but it's a very poor village. And through circumstances, he wants to take the what's it called? The IPS, the police exam. Well, that was the thing that I was a little confused in the beginning because I didn't know what the premise was of this movie, but it's about passing a test. Well, it starts off he's in high school and they're all cheating, and they're cheating with the blessing of the principal to pass these tests because it's the only way they can have a better life, which I kind of get. Well, then an event happens that changes the trajectory of his life, and a an honest police officer comes into the school, arrests the principal for trying to bribe him, and then through a series of circumstances ends up face to face with uh, Manod. Am I saying that right? Manond. I'm probably not saying that right. And that's the catalyst for the trajectory of this person. And basically the line is they asked him, and it was a great scene, by the way. This cinematography in this film was fantastic. They did stuff with the cameras. It was always moving. They did things with lights. Like there was one scene in the Jeep where he picks the two guys up and you can't even see the Jeep. All you can see is the headlights and it kind of washes out. But in that scene, and I loved the way he shot this, there was a conversation between the honest cop and the protagonist. And it was all done through the rear view mirror. That's how you saw them. You saw the cop in the front seat, you only see his eyes, and in the back seat with the protagonist. And he said, basically, how can I get through life? How can I do well? And it was a simple line. The guy said, just don't cheat. And he kind of laughed. And that ended up his philosophy for the rest of the film, to his detriment in some instances. So the story, the way he ends up in Delhi, but he gets everything stolen from him, which the director said happened to him. His director went from Kashmir to Bombay and lost his luggage. So he incorporated that in the story. And it was just bad thing after bad thing happening to him. And then he meets somebody, a friend well, excuse me, he ends up a friend who ends up guiding him through the next series of tests. When he gets to the next place, they're not doing the test. So now he's going to go for the big test, which is I know I wrote this down. Where did I put it? Oh, Indian Police Service Exam, IPS, which is a big, big deal, right? And you got to go through all kinds of different levels till you get an interview to finally get this. And this is really, that's the story of the film. He falls in love. He all this adversity he deals with the entire film, and all he wants to do is go back to his village with his uniform on, because for one thing, his grandmother gave him all the money she had without telling the rest of the family, and he ends up getting that stolen right away. So the story was incredible, and the fact that it's based on, I don't know how much of the story is true, but if half of it's true, it's pretty amazing. And so I loved the story. I loved the ups and downs, and I loved the realism of this film, because I've found that Malayalam films are very grounded. Hindi films really aren't. Some Tamil films are, but most aren't. This was just seems so real to me. The emotions, the dialogue, the relationships. I believe them. So I give the story 5 Ladoos. I loved it. I loved the writing in this, and I understand. I think he said he wrote it 120 times before he came up with the final script. The uh, the acting, I think, although everybody was pretty good, the lead in this, Vikrant Massey, carried the film. He was amazing. Uh, the character arc that he goes through from the start of this film to the end is just amazing. The emotions he played, you believed this was a real person. Just this guy was unbelievable. I don't know if they had anyone else in mind for the part, but this guy was perfect, and I'd love to see him in something else. The girl who played his love interest, Medha Shankar, I liked her too. She was adorable, and there was this one. Well, I'm going to get into music later, but there's one scene where she's got to sing, and it was really her singing live, and it was really well done, the way they shot it, the way she sang. But all the performances were good. The friend that ends up kind of betraying him, his brother, uh, uh, the I don't know what his name is, the mentor, who was also trying to pass these exams and didn't, and ends up, the reason why he was able to finally pass the exam is because of what this guy did for him. And I thought he was wonderful too. Um, but this movie is, I mean, this lead character, the protagonist, is in almost all of it. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's only a few scenes that he's not in, so he really does carry this film. And again, his story arc is wonderful. Um, so I'm going to give the acting, because of him. If I was to rate the entire cast, maybe a 3, but him, I'm going to give him a 5. He was that good. The music, I found, it wasn't overwhelming, and it really fit the tone of this film. It's kind of a quiet film. And as I watched that interview with the director, he said he only used 3 instruments. Now, there was a couple of things, because I had to use subtitles. And some of what he was saying didn't translate to the subtitles, because I think he said he used music from Panther Panchali, which I saw. I'm not sure if that's what he said, but that's what it sounded like, but it didn't show up in the subtitles. The other thing he said was they only used three instruments: a 50-year-old sitar, because the newer ones didn't give him the sound he wanted, a flute, and then there was one other instrument that sounded like, well, a sirote, a sirote. I don't know if that's the word, but that's what it sounded like, and it didn't translate in the subtitles. So it was only three instruments, and it was super effective. Like I said, that scene where she sang, people didn't believe she sung it live. They believed it was pre-recorded, and he made a point of it. No, it wasn't. It was live. She had a beautiful voice. So I thought the music, and there were scenes where there was no music, and that was really effective. So he didn't want music playing throughout the whole thing. Um, and so the music, I give it a 5 also. I loved it because it just added to the mood of the story. And then and then I have to say this, and this is going to be a spoiler, but it's based on a true story, so it shouldn't be too big a spoiler. When he does the interview, from the time he does the interview to the end of the movie, that was uh the emotions, because I will tell you, at near the end I was weeping. Okay, and it wasn't because it was sad, it was because it was, I don't know, it just affected me. It really did, because he goes into the interview, and there's one guy that is biased against where he's from, and it was obvious. And then they asked him about why he failed the 12th grade, and someone told him to lie. In fact, one of the guys that was walking him to the interview told him to lie. And he got in there, and they ask him that question, and he hears the guy's voice tell him to lie, and he tells the truth. And then they say, well, this guy, he's a joke. He's a joke. We can't use this guy. And he leaves the interview. And then he says, well, wait outside for a few minutes. So now they bring him back in, and he takes off his jacket. He loosens his tie. He loosens his shoes because they were really tight. And it's like a supremely confident person, um, compared to what he was at the beginning. And his mindset was, if I don't get this, I'm going to do something else. So I'm okay with that. So he went in with a completely different attitude. And they asked him why he didn't lie. He goes, well, he harkens back to the police officer that told him not to cheat, and how important that was, and how he's trying to live that life. And the interview went on, but you still kind of got the feeling, okay, they're not going to pick him. So, a month passes by. Now they finally get the results of this exam. And he doesn't want to look, because based on what he heard and what he saw, he doesn't have a shot. So he asks his girlfriend, Sarda, I think her name was, Sharda. And she says, okay. And she goes and looks. And this was the scene that just had me like, there's a huge crowd looking at these test results. So she finally gets up there. And as they're doing that, they're flashing back to the interview room after he had left, and the discussion around his interview. I thought that was great. I loved the way they did that. So she looks at the thing. He's on the list. She turns around, all teary-eyed, looking at him, and just, with amongst this huge crowd, just does this, and the music builds. Now he's crying. Now he falls down on his knees, and that's the first time I lost it. And it was so well done. I'm getting a chill even talking about it right now. It really affected me. I can't get over this. So then one of the last scenes is he goes back. Now he's an IPS police officer, full uniform, and he calls his parents, and that whole thing, which was beautiful. He goes back to the police officer who gave him the advice at the beginning of the movie. Now they're all saluting him, right? And he meets this guy, and the guy doesn't recognize him because I think 3 years had passed. I think that's the time frame. And he goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" He goes, "I'm the guy you said not to cheat." And he goes back and he remembers, and now he does this, and the guy's just grinning from ear to ear. And then they hug, and that's another one where I kind of lost it. Um, so I love this movie. I really do, and I would have to say It's got to be in my top five. It gave me, look, Three Idiots is probably my favorite film. I love that film. But this reminded me of like Stars on Earth. It's a tough watch the first hour because of everything he goes through, which is not good. You know, you feel so bad for the guy. You're like, there's no way he's going to be able to persevere. And then he does, and the scenes at the end, like Stars on Earth and this one, it's so joyous. I mean, it's just an amazing feeling as you're watching the film. And that's why I got to put it way up there. So overall, this get five Ledoux from me. I can't praise this movie enough. In fact, this is one of those films that my friends who don't normally watch these films, but I recommend certain ones that I think they'd like. This is one I'm going to tell them to watch. I just love this film. So I appreciate um, everybody recommending this because it was just so good. So, and again, I'm gonna try to find out more about this actor because he was wonderful in this film. So good. So thank you for that. I love it. And I don't know what I'm gonna watch next. Like I told you on the last show, I've got three more movies left from the viewer wheel. So I'm gonna try to get to those. I know a lot of you saying Payasa might not be my cup of tea, but I did see Panther Panachali and I like that. Panchali. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. So I know it's an old film, but someone did tell me the director is like Orson Welles. So I'm curious about that, you know, and it's good to look at that old stuff too. So I'm not sure which one of the three I'm going to watch, but I'm definitely going to watch one of those. Okay. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you for this recommendation. It was incredible. And I'm looking forward to tell the other maniacs to go watch this because I think they're going to like it too. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments as always. Let me know what you think about the film in the comment section too. If you have seen it, if you haven't seen it, please go see it. I think you're going to love it. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone. We'll talk to you soon with another 10ish minute review.